Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics. I'm Taylor Phillips, and welcome to Taylor's Detroit Sports episode 84 on Spreaker and on iHeartRadio. You can add me on Facebook, Taylor Phillips. Like my Facebook page, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports page. Join my Facebook group, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports Group. And follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips. Lots to get to today. Including the biggest story of them all today, David Brandon resigning as Michigan Wolverines Athletic Director. And an interim athletic director coming in. We'll talk Pistons, Timberwolves from last night. Lots of Tigers news today. We'll get you ready for the Red Wings-Kings game tonight. And of course, the Lions feeling confident about the second half of their season in 2014. First off, from Nick Baumgartner of MLive.com, Michigan Athletic Director Dave Brandon resigns. The Dave Brandon era is officially over at Michigan. With public criticism, controversy, and constant protests swirling around Ann Arbor, Michigan President Mark Schlissel announced Friday afternoon that Brandon, who formerly became Michigan's athletic director in 2010, has agreed to resign from his post effective immediately. Schlissel said he accepted Brandon's resignation Friday morning. Schlissel said, quote, Dave feels that in the best interest of our student athletes, our athletic department, and our university community if he moved on. I agree with this decision, unquote. Jim Hackett has been named interim athletic director effective immediately. The move will be approved at the next Board of Regents meeting. The Michigan athletic director who fired former football coach Rich Rodriguez after the 2010 season and subsequently hired current coach Brady Hoke has not only been linked to Michigan's struggling football program, but he's also been criticized by Schlissel himself for leading an athletic department that has been disconnected from its fan base. After receiving constant public scrutiny from increasing the price of student tickets and putting marketing and business ahead of college athletics, Brandon's time at Michigan has come to a close. Brandon was formally appointed as the school's athletic director, succeeding a retiring Bill Martin on January 5, 2010. From there, the former Michigan Regent and Domino's Pizza CEO presided over the final year of Rodriguez's tenure and the fallout from the NCAA investigation into rules broken due to practice time violations. The former Michigan football player ultimately fired Rodriguez on January 5th, 2011, and then announced Hoke as the team's next coach on January 11th. Following an 11-2 debut campaign, Hoke's record has declined each season. The issues surrounding the football program have been well documented, as have several of Brandon's controversial off-field decisions while at the helm of the athletic department. Apart from completely overhauling everything inside Michigan's athletic department, 85 employees had exited the department the department, 85 employees had exited the department by the spring of 2012. Brandon irked fans and supporters with a variety of moves away from competition. He brought Michigan into the alternate uniform craze in 2011. He played a central role in the public marching band fiasco prior to the Cowboys Classic in 2012. He was criticized for various marketing and public relations gimmicks, including skywriting over Spartan Stadium in 2013. The construction of a massive video board outside Michigan Stadium and the Chrysler Center, the Kraft Noodle incident, and more. His department has also been accused of creating a disconnect between Michigan athletics and the student body, as Brandon increased student ticket prices by 23% in 2013 and introduced dynamic pricing shortly thereafter. In 2014, Michigan saw student season ticket sales plummet by nearly 40%. Only after public protests and various displays of fan outrage did Brandon lower these prices, dropping them down to $175 in October. That's this month. And today is the 31st, and that means it's Halloween Day. Happy Halloween, everyone. Public transparency has also been an issue for Michigan's athletic department under Brandon, as the department had almost no expense to the expulsion of former kicker Brendan Gibbons for sexual misconduct in 2013, a move that stemmed from an incident that allegedly took place in 2009. He drew public fury and disappointment from Schlizzle earlier this season, as Michigan's athletic department poorly handled the fallout from the Shane Morris concussion episode, sending out a conflicting news release at 1 a.m. in the morning, more than 2 full days after the injury took place, as the Wolverines were playing the Minnesota Golden Gophers at Michigan Stadium. Brandon said earlier in October, quote, "It was a very unfortunate mistake in communication that we've apologized for it, and it's not going to happen again." For all the negatives surrounding Brandon's tenure at Michigan, there were certainly a large number of positives as well. Brandon has been able to raise enough money to implement a massive $250 million in facilities, a $250 million facilities upgrade to virtually every athletic facility on Michigan's campus. He brought in new money to the department by securing the Winter Classic NHL event in early 2014, which the Red Wings lost to the Maple Leafs 3-2 in a shootout, and even more when soccer clubs Real Madrid and Manchester United played an exhibition match this past summer. All 3 of his home football night games were a rousing success, as Michigan set national attendance records for games against Notre Dame in 2011 and 2013, and even this year's night game against Penn State, when Michigan won 18-13, featuring a struggling Michigan team with an embattled coach, drew an impressive crowd of 113,085. Now let's get to Jim Hackett. Former Steelcase CEO Jim Hackett will serve as Michigan's interim athletic director after Dave Brandon's resignation from the post Friday, U of M President Mark Schlissel announced. Schlissel named Hackett as the university's interim AD during a press conference held Friday at Fleming Hall, announcing Brandon's departure after 5 years leading the Wolverine Athletic Department. Hackett, a 1977 Michigan graduate and former teammate of Brandon under Coach Bo Schembechler, comes to U of M after 2 decades as chief executive of Grand Rapids-based Steelcase Incorporated, one of the world's largest office furniture makers based. Hackett, who retired in February 2014, was credited with steering the company through a major reorganization that shed half the company's Grand Rapids workforce. Over the years, he eliminated 12,000 jobs. And cut the company's 57 facilities by more than half. Hackett joined Steelcase in 1981, holding a variety of sales and marketing positions, and climbed the ranks for over a decade, landing as CEO in 1994. After being introduced, Hackett praised Brandon for the financial stability of the athletic department and his dedication to U of M. According to Schlissel, Hackett will assist the department in finding a new full-time athletic director. Schlissel praised Hackett for his interpersonal skills and called him a highly experienced business leader. Hackett currently serves on two university board posts in the Michigan Business School. He said Friday he hopes his fellow alumni will come together for homecoming. He hopes his fellow alumni will come together for homecoming weekend as show of strength at U of M. The Wolverines will take on the Indiana Hoosiers tomorrow at 3:30 on BTN, the Big Ten Network, and BTN to go on your smartphone, and BTN.com. I'll give you a scouting report later tonight on Michigan and Indiana after the Red Wings take on the Los Angeles Kings in episode 85. Moving on to the Pistons, they lose to the Timberwolves 97-91 last night in Minnesota. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, that is. Keith Langlois from DetroitPistons.com. Keith Langlois from Pistons.com wrote in Minneapolis, Stan Van Gundy was bewildered when the Pistons didn't come close in Wednesday's opener to resembling the team they were offensively in a preseason, which they ball popped from side to side. 24 hours later, he was just plain angry. Van Gundy said, quote, "It was a collective meltdown and a lack of fight. That's very, very disappointing, more so than anything else that I could possibly see as a coach." He spoke these words of a critical 7-minute stretch to start the second half, in which Minnesota stretched its lead from 2 to 19. You got the sense he would have been just as upset. You got the sense he would have been just as upset. Well, almost. If his team had been able to complete the remarkable comeback led by its bench, instead of what happened in the final 90 seconds that led to the 97-91 loss. Caron Butler was magnificent, scoring all 24 of his points in the game's final 18 minutes after coming on with the Pistons in free fall, and DJ Augustine was very good for the second straight night, finishing with 20 points and 6 assists, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Van Gundy knows he's going to need the guys he chose as his starters to give him more than he saw from them Thursday, and especially a better response when bounces and whistles go against them, as they're going to inevitably do for stretches over the course of 82 games. Minnesota shot 16 free throws to 1 for the Pistons in the first half. Then Andre Drummond got hit with 3 fouls in 34 seconds early in the third quarter. Brandon Jennings, upset over a few non-calls when he was jostled going to the basket, picked up a technical foul after the last of Drummond's fouls and nearly picked up a second. Van Gundy yanked him at that point and rode Augustine the final 19 minutes. Josh Smith said, quote, calls probably didn't go the way we want them to go. Calls probably didn't go the way we wanted them to go, but we just got to stay focused on the task at hand. That was putting points on the board and getting stops. That's how you win the game. Unquote. I didn't quote that last second. That last sentence wasn't quoted, so I added that. About 30 minutes left, just under 30 minutes left on the show in this episode of Taylor's Detroit Sports on Spreaker and on iHeartRadio. You can assume Van Gundy was happy with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope among his starters because he played nearly 42 minutes and all 24 of the second half. Beyond that, quote, we dug that hole, we just had to talk about it in there. We just absolutely melted down, hung our heads, and basically the group on the floor was willing to let the game go. We got 5 guys in there who weren't willing to let the game go, and we got back in it. But that was very, very disappointing. That's the first real adversity we hit this year, and we failed the test very badly. Unquote. Butler and Augustine led the charge with help from Jonas Jerebko, Joel Anthony, and Caldwell-Pope, with Butler scoring 8 points in the final 6 minutes of the third quarter. The 19-point deficit was whittled to 10 entering the fourth. A Butler triple with 1:43 to play tied it, but Thaddeus Young's triple 15 seconds later was a momentum-stemming moment that likely released the building pressure Minnesota appeared to sense. The Pistons wound up getting a missed hook shot from Andre Drummond on the next tip, not by design. Van Gundy added, quote, that wasn't what we're trying to get out of it, but that's what we ended up getting out of it. We ran pick and roll for DJ, and we ended up throwing the ball into the post. Unquote. It might have been asking a little much of Butler to continue carrying the offense at that point, given the load he'd shouldered to that point. It wasn't just his scoring either. Butler also grabbed 8 rebounds. Caldwell-Pope added, quote, Karan played well. He came in with great energy off the bench, was knocking down shots. We kept going to him, and he came through for us to get us back into the game. Unquote. And Van Gundy added, quote, an incredible performance. They played with some determination, like they wanted to win the game. You hope some of those other guys, some of your starters, can gain some of that at some point, unquote. So the Pistons return home tomorrow at 7:30 to play the Brooklyn Nets at the Palace of Auburn Hills. That's going to be televised on Fox Sports Detroit. The Pistons are now 0-2 to start their 2014-2015 NBA regular season. And, of course, Van Gundy's really ticked off about it in all departments of play on the court. The Brooklyn Nets will be another tough task. You can catch all Pistons games on Detroit Sports 105.1. And you can stream them online at DetroitSports1051.com, because copyright law actually allows that to be done. Moving on to some Red Wings. They play the Los Angeles Kings tonight at 7:30 at Joe Louis Arena on Fox Sports Detroit. Brian Hedger from NHL.com writes, the Los Angeles Kings have won the Stanley Cup 2 of the past 3 seasons, but have lost 7 of their previous 9 games against the Detroit Red Wings. The Kings will try to reverse that Friday at Joe Louis Arena. Los Angeles could be without key forwards Anze Kopitar and Marian Gaborik because of upper body injuries, but Detroit coach Mike Babcock, head coach that is, said the Kings still will be a challenge. Of course, they're the defending Stanley Cup champions. Babcock said, quote, without Kopitar or Gaborik, they're not the same. They're still a real good, heavy team that plays well and doesn't give you much in the neutral zone and makes it hard for you at the net. They'll have Jonathan Quick in net. He's kind of like the human eraser. It'll be a tough test for us, unquote. The human eraser is an exaggeration expression. It's a hockey game, so. The Kings are missing 3 injured forwards, with Trevor Lewis, due to an upper body injury, joining Kopitar and Gaborik on the sideline, or on the bench. However, Coach Daryl Sutter told the Kings website that forward David Vander Gulik was being returned to Manchester of the American Hockey League. Vander Gulik had been recalled from the AHL on an emergency basis Thursday so he could play in the Kings 3-0 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins. That means Lewis or Kopitar could be returning to the lineup. Kopitar has missed the past 2 games, while Lewis has not played since the season opener. Gaborik is not as close to being able to play. The Kings didn't skate Friday morning, but Sutter said he didn't have a problem with the way Los Angeles played Thursday. He said, quote, we played well. If we make it 2-1, or even the power play scored a goal there, hey, it's a big goal. It's 2-1. We had a really good second period, and we felt that we carried the play in the third. I thought we played well. I thought we played really well. I think goalie Martin Jones would have liked to have a goal back there, unquote. The Red Wings are 5-2-2 with 12 points, but have struggled on the power play. They enter play Friday tonight, 26 in the league at 8.8%, 3 for 34. After getting a power play goal from Pavel Datsyuk with 53.9 seconds to ice a 4-2 win in Washington over the Capitals Wednesday night on NBCSN. Babcock responded, quote, we need to have a real good power play to have success. Everybody does. Look at Pittsburgh. They're eating teams alive with it. When you attack the net, the penalty kill always shrinks. When you just keep it on the wall, the penalty kill always keeps you against the wall. You always have to be on the attack, and suddenly there's room. Unquote. Detroit leads the NHL in penalty killing with 2 goals allowed in 32 times shorthanded with 93.8%. Sutter said, they kill like us. It gets hot and gets cold. We drop 3% in a game. Hopefully we can drop theirs 3% tonight, Friday. By the end of the next week, then they're in the middle of the pack. Stats are for you guys, the media. Unquote. Sutter praised Red Wings defensemen Nicholas Kronwall and Jonathan Ericsson. If you can pit 2 guys to kill penalties in the league. I take 55, Cronwall and Eriksson, unquote. Detroit right winger Johan Franzen, who has been out since October 17th with a groin injury, is expected to be activated from injured reserve and in the lineup Sunday against the Buffalo Sabres in Buffalo. Puck drops there at 5 on Fox Sports Detroit. To make room for Franzen, Red Wings general manager Ken Holland said center Stephen Weiss will be placed on injured reserve. Weiss has been a healthy scratch in all but one game this season. He was sent to Grand Rapids of the American Hockey League on a two-game conditioning stint, but Wednesday in his first game left with a groin injury after 2 periods. So that's why the Red Wings called him up from Grand Rapids today. Or yesterday. They call him up yesterday. Correction. Weiss missed most of 2013-2014 because of sports hernia surgery. Weiss also had a procedure in April. Here are their projected lineups. For the Kings, line 1, Tanner Pearson, Jeff Carter, and Tyler Toffoli. Line 2, Dwight King, Mike Richards, and Dustin Brown. Line 3, Kyle Clifford, Jarrett Stoll, Justin Williams. Line 4, Andy Andrioff, Trevor Lewis, and Jordan Nolan. Defensive pairings, number 1, Jake Muzzin, Drew Doughty. Line 2, Alec Martinez, who scored the Stanley Cup clinching goal in Game 5, 3-2 in double overtime against the New York Rangers in the 2014 Stanley Cup Final, and Robin Regehr. Defensive pairing number 3, Braden McNabb and Matt Green. Starting goaltender, Jonathan Quick. Backup goalie, Martin Jones. No scratches. Slava Voinov was suspended 5 games. And of course the injured list, Marian Gaborik and Anze Kopitar to upper body injuries. For the Red Wings, forwards, line 1, Justin Abdelkader, Pavel Datsyuk, and Henrik Zetterberg. Line 2, Gustav Nyquist, Riley Sheahan, and Tomas Tatar. Line 3, Andrei Nestershil, Darren Helm, and Tomas Yurko. Line 4, Drew Miller, Luke Glendening, and Joakim Anderson. On defense, pairing number 1, Nicholas Cronwall and Jonathan Eriksson. Line 2, Kyle Quincy and Danny DeKeyser. And pairing 3, Jakob Kindl and Brendan Smith. Jimmy Howard will start tonight in net, backed up by Jonas Gustafsson. Daniel Cleary and Brian Lashoff are scratched, and Franzen and Weiss on the injured reserve with groin injuries. Status report. It's more likely Lewis returns to the lineup than Kopitar. Kings website reported that while Kopitar said he could play Friday, it's more likely he returns later in the Kings road trip. Suter said that because of the absence of Kopitar and Gaborik, teams have been using their top defensive lines against Carter's line, especially on the road where the home team gets the last change. After reuniting Datsyuk, Zetterberg, and Abdelkader in the third period of the 4-2 win against the Washington Capitals on Wednesday, and they combined for 3 goals, 2 by Abdelkader and 1 by Datsyuk. Babcock said he wants to keep them together for the rest of the season if possible. Who's hot? Datsyuk has points in all 4 games he's played, 2 goals, 3 assists since returning from a separated shoulder. The Kings are 6-2-2 in their last 10. They're 0-1-2 on the road though. The Wings have only played 9 games, so, as I mentioned, they're 5-2-2 with 12 points. The Kings have 14 points, 6-2-2. The Wings are 3-1-1 at home. So there's some kind of chance the Red Wings will beat the Kings tonight with Gaborik and Kopitar out tonight. With that power play goal by Datsuk, it's a start, but can they score more power play goals? It's still at a rock bottom low. It's number 26 ranked in the league. Move on to some Tigers news here. Less than 14 minutes left. Max Scherzer and starting pitcher Max Scherzer of the Tigers and Victor Martinez, their designated hitter, were issued qualifying offers by the team, ensuring they'll get at least a compensatory first-round draft pick out of the process. That was just a flurry of moves the Tigers made today, ahead of Monday's deadline for such moves to be made. The rest, the Tigers picked up the $7 million team option on Joakim Soria's contract for the 2015 season. Relief pitcher Evan Reed and utility infielder and outfielder Don Kelly were outrighted to AAA Toledo. Outfielder Andy Dirks and reliever Patrick McCoy were placed on waivers and claimed by the Blue Jays and Orioles respectively. Dirks to the Blue Jays and McCoy to the Orioles. It's very bad news for the Tigers. They want Dirks on the team. Outfielder Winton Bernard, the MVP of the Midwest League with the Midwest League with the West Michigan Wild of the MVP of the MVP of the Midwest League with the West Michigan Whitecaps, had his contract purchased by the Tigers, placing him on the 40-man roster. The Whitecaps are the single A Class A single A league affiliate of the Tigers, and four players: Luke Puckonen, Bruce Rondon, Drew Verhagen, and Jose Iglesias were reinstated from the 60-day disabled list, leaving the 40-man roster with 4 spots open. Martinez and Scherzer have until 5 p.m. on November 10th to decide whether or not to accept or decline the qualifying offer. Accepting would lock them in for one season at $15.3 million each, set by the average of the 125 most lucrative contracts in baseball, while declining makes them a free agent. If they decline and sign elsewhere, the Tigers will receive a first-round pick in June's draft. The Tigers said they would like both players back, and both players have indicated they'd like to return. But it may work out that the Tigers can afford the contract demands of neither of them. Scherzer turned down a long-term extension offer last spring. That was from Matthew B. Mowry of the Oakland Press. Also, the Tigers have not picked up catcher Alex Avila's option. They will have until November 20th to do so, according to Chris Ayat on Twitter, at Chris_Ayat with 2 T's. You guys want Avila back or not? You tell me. Finally, the Detroit Lions, who have their bye week this Sunday, are 6-2 and are looking good at the midpoint of the season. Written by Carlos Monarez of the Detroit Free Press. Once they made the playoffs, once they once they made the playoffs, once they watched the train jump the tracks and careen into a town of fiery blaze of destruction that precipitated the worst season in NFL history. So, of course, there's a little concern. Quote, yeah, that's a natural reaction because it's happened, it's imploded before, said Senator Dominic Raiola, who has seen just about everything over 14 years with the Lions. But this is different, this is a new year. Unquote. Of course, with Jim Caldwell, Terrell Austin, and Joe Lombardi as their new coaching staff. In 2011, the Lions started 6-2, and everyone was buying into Jim Schwartz's rock and roll fueled bravado. They had the NFL's 5th-ranked offense that year, but the 23rd-ranked defense. The Lions went 4-4 the second half and lost 3 games. 3 of those games in blowouts. They still made the playoffs as a wild card and even held a halftime lead in New Orleans before the Saints put their offense in overdrive and won 45-28. In 2007, the Lions started 6-2 and the team was pounding the rock while Mike Furry was imploring reporters to kiss a certain part of his anatomy. But that start was a mirage. The Lions had the NFL's worst defense, and the only thing John Kitna's offense did well was throw for yard with the help of a rookie named Calvin Johnson, Megatron. They went 1-7 in the second half and didn't make the playoffs. Raiola said a fresh start under Jim Caldwell this year may be all the difference that keep the team from looking back in anger. Raiola said, quote, "For our group personally, I think we're getting better." I think we're getting better. Last year or years past, we were doing good. We were at a good place. This year we went through our trials and whatnot, so we're 6-2, but there's a lot of improvement. There's a lot of improvement that can happen, and that's going to happen. We're getting these guys that have been injured back. That's very encouraging. That's Calvin Johnson, Reggie Bush, Eric Ebron, Joseph Fourier, and Brandon Pettigrew. The NFL fined 2 Lions for their actions in Sunday's game against Atlanta in London. Right tackle Garrett Reynolds was fined $22,050 for an illegal blindside block, and safety James Ahedebo was fined $10,000 for unnecessary roughness after his late hit on receiver Roddy White. Damian Woody, a new man. Former Lions offensive lineman Damian Woody has lost some serious weight on The Biggest Loser and showed off his new physique on ESPN this week. He was once 388 pounds, but declined to give his current weight since the show is still in progress. Just under 6.5 minutes left on the show, so I got time to read the rest of this. 2013 NFL redraft. Grantland writers Bill Barnwell and Robert Mays did a redraft of the first 20 picks of the 2013 NFL draft, and both concluded Ezekiel Ansah at defensive end should go number 2 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But he's with the Lions now. Mays wrote, quote, "Based solely on talent, Ansah is my favorite player from his draft. He looked ridiculous in stretches for the Lions this year, standing up as a linebacker, hunting down quarterbacks, dropping into coverage. This is his 5th year of football like ever, and he's already affecting games in more ways than just about anyone we're going to talk about here," unquote. With Ansah gone, Barnwell and Mays have the Lions selecting cornerback Desmond Trufant and wide receiver Keenan Allen, respectively. Also worth noting, Barnwell has cornerback Darius Slay going number 9 to the New York Jets instead of D. Milliner, and both writers have had the Jets taking offensive guard Larry Warford at number 13 overall. Check check the Lions roster right now. See where we're at. The Lions still have Ansah. They still have Warford. They still have Darius Slay. That's about it. That's about all I should look up in this roster. So I believe the Lions are good. They need them. So that's going to do it for Taylor's Detroit Sports episode 84. I'm Taylor Phillips. You can add me on Facebook as Taylor Phillips. Like my Facebook page, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports page. Join my Facebook group, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports Group, and follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips. Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading this episode, and all other episodes of Taylor's Detroit Sports on Spreaker are also broadcasted on iHeartRadio. You can find them there as well. I'll be back later tonight with episode 85 of Taylor's Detroit Sports on Spreaker and on iHeartRadio after the Red Wings take on the Los Angeles Kings at Joe Louis Arena. Go Wings, go Pistons, go Tigers, go Lions. Lions have the bye weeks this week, so do the Michigan State Spartans, by the way. TTFN, ta-ta for now.